Andrea, you don't mind if we record, right?
It's fine. But thank you for telling me. Yes, in advance.
Yes. Okay. So, comadres, I want to introduce you to a fellow comadre because Andrea has been a comadre for at least 10 years, right, Andrea?
I think so.
Andrea is a visual artist. She's an award-winning visual artist. She works in a range of medias, including public art, painting, drawing, illustration, and site-specific installations. So, Andrea, tell us more.
Thank you, Maria. Welcome, everybody. Hello. Thank you for coming. Nice to be here. So yeah, I'm a visual artist, and I think I'm just gonna start screen sharing, just so that I can show you some visuals. Hold on a second. Alrighty, so that's me. And as Maria said, I work in a range of media, and beginning from tiny little drawings to large scale installations that are even a monumental scale. I'm originally from Mexico City. I've been in New York for over 30 years. I'm a self-taught visual artist. I've been a professional for about over 25 years, I think 30. I was trained as a contemporary dancer. So I came to New York City with a scholarship for the Merce Cunningham Dance School. And then after some years performing as a contemporary dancer, I transitioned into the visual arts. And I tell you all of this because it's going to be very evident, my story as a dancer, and every medium that I use, every project that I have carries the same values and style and concept, which is honoring women, honoring the female body, and honoring women's stories and lives. So I'm just gonna start sharing and tell you a little bit about my projects. So this one here is, and let me know if my audio is okay and my image is okay. Just let me know if anything is.
Nope, you sound good.
Good, thank you. So this project is called Covida, and this is my latest project. This is at the Maurice Jumel Mansion Museum here in New York, in Upper Manhattan. And it's an homage to the victims of the pandemic. So this is how the project started in November. We opened on the Day of the Dead, beginning of November. And we invited the public, the audience, to submit names of victims of the pandemic. So this shot is from the first days. So you see a few ribbons. All of the ribbons that you see feature handwritten names of victims of the pandemic. So we have names from, of course, from the local community. This is in Washington Heights, Harlem. We have names from all over the city, all over the United States, from Mexico, from Italy, from Turkey, from France, from all over the world. So it's been a really wonderful project. It was a way for me to engage with my audience that I have been missing for so long because of the pandemic and just the restrictions of COVID. And this is outdoors, of course. It was available 24/7 for the public. And I wanted to provide a space of not only of gathering and engagement, but also a space for reflection for the community. So it was really well received, and it was featured, in the media all over in Mexico and Italy, here in the States. So it was really a wonderful project. This is a detail, so you can see some of the names written on the ribbons. The names were written by myself, also by some volunteers, and we had hundreds and hundreds of names submitted, and we just kept adding to the installation every week, basically. The media is repurposed materials and mixed media. And this is how the installation looked during one of the storms. As you can see, we have many, many more ribbons now than at the very beginning. So it was a really moving experience for me as an artist. It was really wonderful to engage with my audience and with a larger audience, even at the worldwide level, especially during COVID, that we were just quarantined and just so isolated. So that's Covida. And of course, the name comes from COVID and Vida. I really wanted to focus, we were focusing so much on the numbers of the victims, and it was just so heartbreaking. And I wanted to focus on life. I wanted to focus on the life, even of the victims. So I really wanted to name it Covida. Also because we were thinking, everything that we couldn't do, and it was just going on and on and on for months and months. And I just thought, this is not life. Esta no es la vida. Esta es la covida. Like, how do we coexist with each other? How do we coexist with the pandemic? So that's the title, Covida. This is another project. This is a permanent glass work. It's a series of panels that are at Gun Hill Road here in New York City in the Bronx. And it's a project that I did through the MTA, and is there permanently, and it's another really wonderful way to engage with an audience. It's wonderful to have work that is permanently there. Sometimes I go visit, and I love to see how people engage with the work in different ways. And this one looks really wonderful. It's in an elevated subway station, so depending on the time of day, it looks different, depending on the shadows and the sun. So it's been a great experience as well. This is another one from those images. The project itself is called My Sun, My City, My Planet. And it's basically a celebration of New York and New Yorkers. So this is, again, the Gun Hill Road subway station on the 2 line. This one here is something that I've been doing too. Also, I have been working with historical museums. This is the Morris Jumel Mansion Museum in Manhattan. The house is from 1765. It's an original house. It's the oldest house in Manhattan, and is where George Washington had his headquarters during the Revolutionary War. It's a place that was habitated, of course, as we all are, by the Algonquin and Lenape people. I want to recognize that we are standing on the Lenape and Algonquin land. So I really wanted to relate the history of the United States to the history of all of us. Many times, American history is seen as something really, really specific, and sometimes something that is really, really white, or actually not white, but just told from a very wide perspective. And fortunately, that is changing these days. So we have a lot of work to do, but it's, there is some change going on. So that's very good. And for this project, my exhibition was called Women Unbound. The owner of the house was Eliza Jumel, and at the time she was the richest woman in New York, and it was very unusual for women to own property. So this was, a mansion, and it was just extraordinary. It's just an extraordinary story. So the exhibition features this work, and also a lot of works that are inside the museum that integrate historical artifacts. This is a similar project, is the Elizabeth Cady Stanton House. She was, of course, the promoter of the first Women's Rights Convention, and where, of course, women's suffragettes were working. I call this the Winds of Change. And it is basically about celebrating the women who fought for other women, for all of us, to have the right to vote. Again, I really want to link and to relate to American history as contemporary history as well. A lot of the historical museums have a difficult time reaching, especially Latino communities and communities of color in general, because as I said, American history is something that is not really seen in a holistic way. So I really want to invite our communities to explore these houses, these historical houses, as part of our history, and basically take ownership of, these spaces that are so important. Going to a more public art, I do a lot of temporary public art as well. I do garden installations. I work a lot with the New York Restoration Project and with other organizations in the city. And what I do is I intervene, what I call my collaborations with nature. So this is an ivy, just a wonderful, beautiful, glorious ivy wall that is in East Harlem. And I collaborated with the ivy. I intervened with a series of figures and silhouettes of women. And the name is Women in Flight. And the idea for me is, again, honoring women, honoring women's stories, thinking also about all of the goddesses that are goddesses of nature, goddesses of the forest, goddesses of plants, and just this symbolism of women as creators, as givers of life and protectors of life. And of course, my photo is just there to represent scale, just so you know how big this thing is. This is another piece from that same series, and it's titled Evidence of Movement, and it's again mixed media and repurposed materials, and it's integrated with an existing garden fence. So again, these spaces are, it's important to me to have art and bring art to these spaces that are public. Important to me to bring art out of the traditional museum and gallery spaces that I'm used to showing my work in. These kind of works engage with the community in a really different way. And it's really a privilege to have those spaces available. And this is another from the series, it's titled Daphne, and is a mixed media integrated with a magnolia tree. Again, one of those pieces that I call a collaboration with a tree. Not sure the tree was willing to collaborate, but I think, it worked out okay for both of us. And again, these works, it's important to me to have these works in the public realm. And it's always, it's perceived sometimes as a risk to put out art outside of gallery walls, because you never know if it's going to be damaged or vandalized or how people are going to respond to it. But I have had just an amazingly wonderful response. So it's been a really just generous project, just going both ways. Like I put the art there and just the feedback has been just incredible. This is another piece from that project, and it's called The Women of Mannahatta, and it's an homage to the women of the Lenape Nations with, and it's an oak tree. This is in front of the Maurice Jumel Mansion Museum. It's a magnificent, ginormous tree that is just beautiful. And just placing the art in a way that is very low impact, and no impact really. It doesn't impact the tree or damage it in any way, but it interferes in a way with the perception of the tree. So again, thinking of women as givers of life and as protectors. Yes. This piece is a different kind of a piece. It's a commission that I got from the New York Botanic Garden. Maybe some of you saw the Frida Kahlo exhibition, which was just wonderful. And I had the opportunity to have a show there. This is a pyramid. This is a reproduction of Frida Kahlo's pyramid, the one that was in her house. And I created the Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos altar. And it's a combination of contemporary and traditional Dia de los Muertos elements. Going now to my social justice works. This is the title is wrong, sorry about that, but just look at the image. The image is a project I call Flor de Tierra, homage to the women of Juarez. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the case of, I think it's almost 2,000 women in Ciudad Juarez, Mexico, who have been either murdered or disappeared. And this project I started years and years ago, and it's right now it's about 400 different drawings in celebration, in homage and tribute to the victims of these femicides and disappearances. Each drawing is contained on paper and is 12 by 9 inches, each one. The installation size is, of course, variable depending on the space. And this is a detail. So each one of those drawings is a different drawing. And for the project, what I do is I think of, each one of the victims. I have a list of their names, and I think of them as goddesses and deities. This one, for example, is inspired by Daphne from the Greek mythology. And I always think of these victims, or even survivors sometimes, as women who are survivors and who are fighters and who are warriors. And I want to think of them as we think of, characters like Cleopatra or Daphne or Aphrodite. Like, everybody recognizes those names. And I want the victims to be recognized as well, because, there's a goddess in every woman and there's a survivor in every woman. So that's my Flor de Tierra homage to the Women of Juarez project. This one, I'm starting with my project Flor de Vida, and this project is inspired by women from history and mythology. So as you see, I've shown you a few samples of each body of work. I work in series, so I start with a theme and with a different medium and style, and I explore a particular theme, and I create, sometimes a dozen, sometimes, several dozen works on that theme, and I call that a series. And usually my exhibitions feature one specific series, so each one of the bodies of work that I've shown you are really part of one particular exhibition. So this exhibition was called Flor de Vida, based and inspired by women from history and mythology. This particular image is of Chaska, inspired by Chaska, from South American mythology, and she's the goddess of dawn. And it's a mixed media on canvas. From that same series, this is Xochiquetzal. She's the Aztec goddess of the earth and flowers, again from the same series. I use a lot of mythology, and I try to use a diverse number of resources. Sometimes when people think mythology, they tend to think of basically Greek and Roman and sometimes the Egyptian mythology. There's not a lot of Latin American or mythology of the Americas in the general just perception of it. So I try to incorporate a lot of goddesses and mythologies from the Americas. This is titled Lilith, and it's again from the same series, Flor de Vida. And these again are about celebrating women's stories. And all of these are taken and inspired by literature and art. And I always try to give it a contemporary twist. So as you can see, also I use most of my figures are women in the nude, and I very, very seldom use traditional skin colors. I usually stay away from doing that because it's important to me to have a universality and just to be perceived as more universal. Again, from that same series, this is Eve. You can see the forbidden fruit right there. And again, just talking about skin color, I use just a different shade of colors that are just as far away from skin tone as I can think of for this particular series. The other body of work that I'm going to show you is called just a couple of pieces from this. These are tiny paintings. These are 12 by 12 inches, and they are from my series Sacred Women. And this series is inspired by women from mythology and history, but also from art in sacred spaces and fragments of, let's say, a mosaic in an archaeological site, or a fragment of a mural in a cathedral or a temple or a pyramid. So this idea of just taking fragments of body parts appeal to me, because sometimes that's what all we have to think of when we encounter, let's say, an archaeological site, and we have to make a story. When you see just a fragment of a body part, I many times try to, make myself, or just try to figure out a narrative around that particular image. So this is Aphrodite. This one from the same series is called Paradise. And these have a little bit of a slant of more of a sensuality. And that is also important to me because it's important to me to honor the female body in all shapes and forms. And many times, body image and shaming is just too prevalent in our culture. So for me, it's very important to do that. This one, I'm gonna go now to some works that are works that I've been publishing in different magazines and newspapers and things like that. As you can see, I do a whole, just a range of things, and I do magazine covers, book covers, I do children's books, and these are projects that I really like. These are usually very challenging in terms of deadlines, but I love seeing my work in print. And also I reach a completely different audience and a larger audience. And also the originals from this series are usually either collected by either individual collectors, or sometimes placed in museums and things like that. This one, for example, was published in the New York Times, and it's a watercolor on paper, and the original is in the collection of the Library of Congress. This one is one of my children's books. I've done a few of these. I love doing children's books because they are projects that are very, what I call slow projects. So I have time. I usually take almost a year to finish, like from start to finish. And I get the story, and then I work on the illustrations little by little. And it's just, kind of becomes what it is, and it takes some time. So I like doing these projects a lot, and this book has been awarded a bunch of different awards and recognitions, and it's sold, I don't know, probably like 50,000-60,000 copies so far. So these are projects that are they have a long life, and in that sense they're also very rewarding. This is another book. This is my first children's book. It's in Rosas, Mexico. And it's 3 different stories that are a little bit, surreal about, Mexico and Mexican culture. So these are fun projects. They're very, very intense, but they're also very fun. And this is another project that I did. I was commissioned I was named by the Grammy Academy as official artist of the Latin Grammy. And I was commissioned to do an artwork, and I just had to, figure a way to have a woman in the Grammy Awards. So I chose Lady Liberty, and basically, calling this New York as Muse. This image was used for the poster for the Latin Grammy, for the tickets, and even for the envelopes. When you watch the Grammys and they say, and the winner is, they have the envelope, and they open the envelope, and you could, see that broadcast live on TV. So that was fun. And I'm gonna start showing you some different works. These are digitally made. And this is what I do. I do a weekly piece that is published in different, publications, from the Manhattan Times to, publications in Italy, in Mexico, and different places. And they're also exhibited in different exhibits in museums and galleries here and abroad as well. This is titled Celebrate Women Every Day. And I made this just recently to celebrate March, Women's History Month. But of course, my idea is that, Women's Month is every month and Women's Day is every day. And for me, flowers are beautiful, but justice is even more important. So just using that, poetic language to try to express a point of view that is very, very clear in my values in terms of justice and feminism. This one is a piece that I call Women's Rights Are Human Rights. And this was exhibited at the Cuban Biennial, and it received an award there. It's been published all over, in different publications around the world. And I was thinking, the idea of patriarchy and what it means for women to be oppressed. And it doesn't. It's better. It's becoming better, but still there are so many issues that we have to work on, starting from the wage gap, where women are usually paid less than men are. And if we think of Latinas, Black women, and women of color in general, the gap is even larger. So very, very important to me to just express my ideas about justice and to express my opinion about things that we need to do to actually create change and justice for all of us. This is an image that I created when the Me Too movement started, just at the very, very beginning. It's called the Me Too, and the whole series is called Solidarity series. This whole digital body of work is called Solidarity, and it's about social justice. It's about themes that are important to all of us, and it's about using art as a tool for social change. I truly, truly believe that art changes the world. I think it changed my life, and I've seen it when I have people visiting my exhibitions or contacting me online. I've seen people move to tears. I've seen people get angry about the subject, and the most important thing is to create a space for dialogue. Really, really important to me. Just create that space so that we can address some of the issues that are important to all of us. This was awarded the first prize at the United Nations Glory Award. Again, from the same series, I do a lot of work about immigration and the border. And as I was thinking about the wall and what the real price of the wall is, when our former president was talking about the wall and how much it was going to cost and how beautiful it was going to be and all that nonsense, I was just thinking about the real cost and how many lives it costs to have that wall. So just thinking about that and just creating a space of solidarity and reflection. Again, from that same series, this is called Love Without Borders. And just, doesn't matter. My opinion is that it really doesn't matter how many walls you build and how high they are. Like, we are going to go through them, and love is going to conquer the walls, and families are going to be reunited one way or the other. And love has no borders, basically. This one, again, from the same series, is called Build Love, Not Walls. And just thinking about family separations and how a mother and a child can be reunited even in their dreams. But it's aspirational in that sense, and just thinking about the humanity and sometimes the loss of humanity that happens with this when these policies are made. The idea for me is that borders are human-made; they're not natural borders. So it's important to remember that, and these policies affect real people, so they're not just on paper. This one is about the same issue. It's about the border and the fence and solidarity, like refugees around the world, not only United States, but around the world. They leave their countries, their places of, they've been living there for generations, and they have to leave for different reasons, maybe war, maybe economic reasons, maybe, there are all kinds of different reasons, but people leave because they need to. They don't live because they just want to live. So solidarity is really, really important. And of course, the United States is a country of immigrants, and we need to welcome the immigrants the same way that the previous generations of immigrants were welcomed. And this one is about the trauma of family separations when children are separated from their parents, from their families. The trauma, the PTSD stays with them for their whole lives, and we have to understand that this is could be, it is, and it was a humanitarian crisis, not only here in the States but all over the world, where you have refugee camps in different areas of the world, and just thinking of that, the impact of these policies on actual human beings and especially children. This one, of course, something very important to me, to support Black Lives Matter, to honor Black lives. Just very, very simple message, just peace, justice, and love, just for all of us. Just very simple. It's nothing radical. It's all about love. Getting to COVID, this image I made even before COVID came to the United States. I did this for a publication, and it was published probably in December or January, and it's just called COVID Alert, because we knew it was in China, but we didn't know it was coming to the States, and just was going to have such an impact. This is an image I did for healthcare workers. I call it healthcare heroes. Just thinking of all of the medical workers, especially women, who were putting their lives on the line to save our lives and keep us safe. And they're still doing so, to this day, during the COVID crisis. Just honoring those workers. This is about the vaccine and the inequities. Things are getting better now, but at the beginning, of course, access to the vaccine was a challenge, and around the world it keeps being a challenge for the time being. A lot of developing countries are not having access to the vaccines, so important to me to express that concern. This is just called simply Take Care, Big Apple. Just thinking, when New York City was just the epicenter of the pandemic, and just thinking about taking care of each other and how we need each other, and how we just need to think of ourselves and our neighbors as family, and just take care of each other, because we need that, we need each other more than ever. And this is the last one I'm going to show you from that series. Is titled Spring. And again, it's just a celebration of life. Spring is here, yay! So I published this last week, and just very happy about just seeing the flowers in Central Park, just celebrating that. But just remembering that we have to still, use our mask, protect each other, just be conscious and mindful of each other, and find joy, like within those limitations and restrictions, just find joy. And that's the last one from the series. And this is the series that I've been working on since the beginning of the pandemic. I titled this Sheltering in Love, and it's a series of watercolor on paper. They're 8 by 10 or 5 by 7. They're tiny compared to my other work. And they're just lyrical, just poetic images, celebrating women, celebrating life. You see sun and flowers, and just a dance of bodies that is, for me, really, really important at this time, because with the pandemic, with the quarantine, with being sheltered in place, sometimes I feel stuck, and I feel like everybody feels stuck, and we don't feel the flow, we don't feel movement. And it's important to remember that we are part of nature, we are nature. And this celebration to me is getting that idea of women's bodies as part of nature. This is from the same series, Sheltering in Love. And it's just using different colors and different forms to celebrate women, to honor women's bodies. And this is the last one from the series. Again, watercolor on paper, 8 by 10, and just celebrating life, love, and striving for justice and for the return of a normal life in a way that is better than it is now. So that's it for this slideshow. Thank you. I'm gonna stop my share.
Thank you. That was wonderful. So I'll start off with my question. And then please, everyone, unmute yourselves and ask a question. So I noticed that you have a very, very distinctive style. I mean, I can tell yours like immediately, it's the same fluidity, the same sensualness, the same, it's like I don't know how you call it. It's sort of like a grace that you have. And I think that the dancing, that fluidity that you have in dance, I think you've captured that very nicely in your paintings because all the ways that they move, the ways that their arms, the leaves. I'm just in love with them.
Oh, thank you.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, it's for me. It's not only about the shape. It's also about just the core concept that women, we have to be fluid. We have to be flexible. We have to move around. We have to navigate circumstances and just be flexible in general. Because life is unpredictable, and we have to be ready to just move one way or move another way. And that's important to me, that sense of fluidity in the sense of aesthetics, but also in the concept.
Maybe. Yeah, no. It's just.
Andrea, I'm Gladys. I am so amazed at the wide variety. So you're like in museums, you're in magazines, it's just amazing to me the how you've been able to spread out. How do you find the places that your art ends up in?
Well, I many times they call me, like the museum, let's say for the COVID project that I just did, a museum will call me and commission the piece. So that's one way. I've been exhibiting and showing my work for many, many years. I think one of the advantages that I have just for myself is that I'm self-taught and I am very open-minded. I am always willing to learn. So the first time I made a mural, I got a commission, I got a call, and somebody wanted me to paint a mural, and I never painted one before. And I said, they told me, you want to paint a mural? I said, sure. And I don't know how to do it, but I'll learn. And then my glass work, I never done glass art before. And I got the commission from the MTA. And again, it's just an opportunity for me to learn and to embark in a project and an adventure. So it's I am very, very open-minded. I'm always willing to learn, and I think I learn from every project is a learning adventure. In practical terms, I sometimes places and institutions find me, magazines and book editors usually find me, but sometimes I create my own opportunities. Sometimes I want to make something, and the first time that I did a piece in a garden, I just created that opportunity myself. I just, had an idea and I created the art, and I went into different institutions, and I just, offered that idea and the project, and it's been working really well for me. So yeah, thank you. But the range
It's amazing, and congratulations. It's like the variety is amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Andrea?
Yes. Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Hola.
I love your work. It's
Thank you so
really,
much.
really, really beautiful. I would like if you could elaborate when you say mixed media, what are actually the material when you say mixed media?
Well, depends on the project. I use a lot, like the outdoor work. I use a lot of acrylic and ink and repurposed materials. Sometimes I don't even know what they are because I use repurposed materials that are given to me. So sometimes somebody will give me some vinyl or some different kinds of canvases that I put together, and I'm not exactly sure what they are. For my studio work, my paintings and my drawings, I usually do either oil on canvas, acrylic on canvas. I do pastels, and I love watercolor on paper too. So it really depends on the project. I do a lot of different mediums, and I like to experiment a lot. So that's another advantage of being self-taught, that I'm always experimenting, and I always want to learn something new. And it's just a mixed media is usually a mixture of several things in one work.
So the work that you did on the Ivy,
Right.
that was made of repurposed, or when you say repurposed in mixed media, is it like sheets of vinyl, that you get and then you paint over it, or you
Right.
cut
So,
it?
right. There are sheets of, they were not vinyl. It's some kind of a mesh that I think is vinyl, but I don't know what it is, because it was given to me by a corporation that just, they have overproduction of something. And so I use it. And I think it was, some kind of a garden mesh or construction material. And I've been working with that material for, I would say, 5 years, and it holds beautifully. So it's been great.
That's interesting. And then when you say Conte on paper, what is Conte?
Conte is similar to pastels. So it's almost like a chalk, but it's a pencil. So it's
Okay.
fine art chalk that is just very, very fine and very, very smooth.
That's great. You're so artistic and creative how you use all these materials to create such beautiful art.
Thank you so
I
much.
commend you highly.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I
Welcome.
appreciate it.
More questions? Don't be shy. Andrea, what happens to those installations that you have, like that you had in the park? Like what do you do with them?
So it depends on the project. Sometimes they have a long life. Like I would put something in one part one year, and then the next year I would modify the installation, use the different elements to create a new one, add to it, mix with different kinds of materials. So I reuse them. For the COVID installation, I'm actually hoping to install it in a different place. Right now in the spring, I'm looking for a venue for either a fence or an indoor space that wants to present it. And ultimately, I would like that specific installation to be archived in a museum or an institution, because it's a historical piece. So that will be the ideal thing to do with those. But they have a long life.
So the one that you had at the on the blue wall in the Friendship Garden, is that one still there?
No, that was taken down in, I'm gonna say, October.
So does that then belong to you, or does that belong to the garden?
No, everything belongs to me. Like everything that I do, I keep the copyright unless they purchase the actual work. Everything belongs to me. Of course, when I sell a painting, the painting itself belongs to the collector who bought it, either an individual or a museum, but the copyright belongs to me. So the image itself belongs to me. So it's something that I do that, I'm very aware of my rights as an artist. So that's a good question. It's important, I think, for all of us to understand. Yeah.
It's funny that Maria asked about the archive, because I was thinking it seems like so much of what you showed us is so recent. So it looks like you're constantly working. Where do you keep all of this stuff if it's not being displayed at some place?
Yes, well, I'm quite fortunate. I make a living as an artist. So most of the paintings are collected, so I don't have them anymore. I sell them. Okay. The digital work, exists digitally, and then when I have an exhibition, I print it. I do museum quality prints for exhibitions. The public work sometimes is a collection of a different institution, a museum, or an organization. But most of the studio work, paintings, drawings, are usually placed in different collections. So I don't have a huge warehouse with thousands of them. I don't.
Andrea, your smaller works, are they for sale? Like your watercolors and things like that? Are they for sale?
Yes, they are. The majority of my income comes from the sale of work. I sell either through my studio or my gallery. I am represented by a gallery, and so yeah, the small works, the studio works, what I call anything that is a painting, a drawing, painting either on canvas, on paper. So those are the ones that are the ones that I sell the most.
Great. Hopefully I could afford one.
Sure.
Well, I was gonna say, if you don't mind, I'm connected with the Staten Island Museum here on Staten Island.
Wonderful.
And I think it would be wonderful if I put you in touch with the director so that you guys can do something, because I know they were trying to do something for women's suffrage. But then the pandemic hit, so they lost all of that, but they're still doing stuff on the side. And I'm trying to get them to connect with the Latino community more. So this would be
Yeah,
an awesome connection. So please, we'll connect.
absolutely.
And I'll connect you with Janice.
Absolutely. Super, super important to me to have museums and institutions connect with the Latino community. We have, there's a challenge in connecting those communities and bringing them into the museums. So we have to do a lot of work doing that. When I do exhibitions, for example, in a historical house, many people are surprised. Sometimes people are a little bit upset because they have a very specific idea of what the museum should look like and who should be exhibiting at that particular place. But it's really important to me, and the response has been incredible from all communities. So anytime you make something or venture into doing something that is radical or different or adventurous, there is a risk. But for me, I've been really fortunate. Like every risk has just brought amazing experiences. So yes, it's really important to connect the museums with the community. Really important for me to invite everyone to visit every museum you have available to you. Just use those resources. Just those are, for me, they're refuges during the pandemic. Even they're usually accessible in terms of price. Many times they're free to go in. So and it's part of our culture, it's part of our country. We own those things, we own those museums, we own those artworks. So I think it's a beautiful way to connect the past with the present. So thank you, that'll be fabulous. Thank you so much.
We'll do that.
Yeah.
Yay.
¿Algo más? ¿Alguna otra pregunta?
No. I have to say, I did see your exhibit at the place in Manhattan. I remember being there and admiring it. And that's such a lovely place to do it. And I'm like, wow, who is that? And then when I saw you in the picture, when you showed it, I'm like, wait a minute, I was there.
Oh, that's so great. That's so great.
Yeah, it was really nice. Really nice.
Thank you. Yeah.
Andrea, what are you working on now?
I am working on those tiny sheltering in love pieces. I have been, I'm always way too busy. As you can see, I work a lot. I do a lot of projects, one after another, sometimes one on top of each other, like 1, 2, 3 projects at the same time. And I really, I've been exhausted during the lockdown, the quarantine, the pandemic, like every one of us. I've lost, loved ones. And I wanted to focus on joy. I really wanted to focus on something small. Part because many of my projects were canceled or postponed, due to the pandemic, especially the large public art projects. So I wanted to just focus on something tiny, something that I could control, something that I can do just in my studio. I am very, very lucky that my studio is in my home. So that's what I'm working on right now, just going small for a little bit. And then hopefully after spring, when weather is better and the pandemic is under control, fingers crossed, I'm gonna just go back to public art again. But for now, that's what I'm working on. And also all the political art. I do a weekly political art that is done digitally, that is for publication in different magazines and newspapers, and always trying to use art as a tool for social justice.
Cool. Do you live in New York?
Yeah, I live in Upper Manhattan.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
She lives on Broadway, very noisy Broadway.
Yes. Super noisy. Yes.
Andrea, the East Harlem Garden, where is that one?
So there were 2 or 3 gardens that I worked with in East Harlem in the past. One is on 116. The other one is in 111. The info is on my website if you want to check it out.
Okay.
The pieces are not there anymore though. They're temporary. But there's some wonderful community gardens in East Harlem and all over the city. And another beautiful thing is that usually those community gardens are led by the community. They're volunteer-based organizations, and those communities are beautiful. Just the people who work the gardens, the people who open the gardens, they're just beautiful, beautiful people. So it's been a wonderful connection also. And they're tiny little oases. And sometimes we forget that New York has a lot of nature.
They do. They do. You should do something at Madison Square Park.
Yes.
That was beautiful over there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Andrea, where can we buy your work? Because you
So-
don't have a store or anything on your website.
No, I don't. But you can definitely contact me. Just email me through my website. I do have a contact email right there. If you want, you can also go through my gallery for larger pieces that are a little bit higher in price. But just go through my website and send me an email. I'll be happy to send you some images and just look through it and see if there's something of interest, and I'll be happy to give you information.
Do you do, because I see behind you, you have note cards. Do you do note cards?
I don't. Those are the postcards from my exhibitions.
Oh,
I've done note cards for things like the New Yorker, but they actually produce them themselves. So I do the images, they produce them. But I don't do cards or merchandise. I don't do any merchandising.
oh, okay.
Yeah. I usually sell just original work and sometimes museum quality prints, but that's it. Yeah.
No, they're beautiful. I have the one that you did for Puerto Rico, for
Oh,
Hurricane Maria. I got that one.
yes, thank you. That's great. That's great.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As I said, one of the pieces that I do just in terms of social justice, just solidarity. Just solidarity. Yeah.
Mhm. More questions? Christy, you got a question? Christy's shy.
That's all right.
I don't necessarily have a question, but do you ever design like logos or anything like that?
I've done in the past. I've done logos in the past.
Convince yourself, right?
Yeah. I've done logos in the past. It's not what I do mostly, but I certainly have done some logos and design work in the past. Yes.
Mhm. Oh, how do you find your book projects?
Usually the editorial, the editorial house will contact me, and for different different projects. Yeah.
And it takes a year for you to do all the pictures?
Usually, yeah, I take it slow, and the book projects are like long-term projects, so it takes a long time. Yeah, there's a lot of back and forth as well with writers and designers and things like that. It's like a lot of people are involved, so it takes time. they're really different. Like a painting, I just, I do myself and I just decide what it is and, everything. And then a book just has a lot of elements and it's more of a collaboration.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other questions?
Have any of your paintings been made into tattoos?
Into
Tattoos.
Oh,
tattoo.
tattoos. Ah. She's wearing her tattoos.
I am. So this is a lady, right? Yes. I actually was commissioned to do a tattoo for a friend of mine, but the pandemic hit, so I didn't do it. Yeah, so just mine for now. Yeah,
Oh,
just
wow,
a
that's
lady.
amazing.
Thank you.
Yes.
It hurts though when it's done, so nothing
Yeah,
to take it lightly.
it's
But it's
beautiful.
totally worth it in my view.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Whoever did it did a great job.
Thank you. Thank you.
They probably had a trace because you have such a
Yeah.
fluidity, they had to like, okay, let me just trace this in ink.
Yes, yes, definitely.
More questions?
Can you see me?
Yes, I can see you.
Okay.
Hi, Julia.
Hi. I'm sorry I'm late, Comadre Andrea. I just wanted to say hello. I'm a big fan of your work.
Thank you so much.
And I hope I get to see whatever slides you showed earlier, Maria. I hope you'll share them with us. So
We have a recording going.
okay, awesome. Because I'd love to see them. I love your work. I think I have one that you did for Mexico after earthquake or something there. I bought one of those pieces.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for the support. And yeah, good to see you.
Absolutely.
Any more questions?
Just a quick just explanation that the piece that you talked about, Maria, and the piece that Julia talked about are pieces that I do for particular fundraisers. One was for an earthquake in Mexico, the other one was for the hurricane in Puerto Rico. So I do things like that, and they're again part of my solidarity series. So I fundraise and just for charities, for a cause. So,
No, that's beautiful. Yeah.
thank you.
Oh, and you have Andrea has, oh, there she is. She's showing you
Oh
the
yeah.
heart. Yes.
Oh,
And you also have the Facebook, you have a Facebook message every Monday.
I do a weekly update with the pandemic. Yesterday I put my day 365 because I've been recording the pandemic, the numbers, the COVID victims. So yes, you're invited to join my Facebook. I also want to invite everyone to join. Tomorrow I have a virtual artist talk with the Hudson River Museum, and it's gonna be a more in-depth visit. So feel free to join me. I just put the link on the chat. It's free. You just have to register and just feel free to share this with anyone you want to share it with.
Awesome.
That's wonderful. Well, Andrea, thank you so much for being with us tonight. We really, really appreciate it, comadre. And we will see everyone. Tomorrow is the book club meeting, the book club discussion. Thursday is the crochet meeting, and Friday is our happy hour. So we're still celebrating Women's Month.
Absolutely.
Always.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for,
Gracias, Andrea.
Oh, gracias. Gracias a todos. Thank you for the support. And
Maria, I'm gonna text you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Nice to meet everybody. Take care.
Bye.